Vir ons nageslag. Ek en vir my vriende het saamgekom om 'n boodskap van hoop te deel. Dit gaan nie net oor die situasie waarin ons is nie, maar dit gaan ook oor dit waarin ons glo. Vir ons nageslag. En ook vir joune.
Waar gaan jy speel met jou maatjies? Waar gaan jou spore toe waai? Waar gaan jy val, gaan jy opstaan en huil en waar gaan jy staan na die son sak wat myle strek?
Wat los ons oor vir ons kinders? Wat gaan ons eendag kan wys? Wat is nog reg of verkeerd? Wil ek weet wat maak ons as jare se sweet te vergeet te gaan? Ek los vir jou die son en die see en die land, my kind. Beloof my, jy sal my aan die einde vind. My vlag van Oranje sal saai vir jou in jou veilig hou. Ek los vir jou die son en die see en die land, my kind. Die Here oor my ons sal 'n lewe vind. My vlag van Oranje sal saai vir jou. Ek beloof jou, die land behoort aan jou.
Okay, good evening on this post. Good evening, friends, on this post Human Rights Day, where we thought that we would discuss our take as SAFA on the human rights situation in South Africa. It's a very complex situation, human rights, because when things don't go our way, we shout human rights and constitutional rights. And a lot of people in South Africa will do something and then say that you're actually offending and you're violating my constitutional right to something, yet they've never read the Constitution of South Africa. What is human rights? It's the protection of all. And maybe some things that I'm going to say tonight are going to sound racist, but they're not. Please, I ask you to take it in the context that I'm saying it. We've got the basic human rights for water, for electricity, for sewerage, and cultures of this country need to take hand. At the moment, the basic human rights of the white man and the Indian man and the colored man is non-existent. We don't have a culture of human rights as far as it comes to the white South African. The argument to that could be say, okay, well, look what happened during apartheid. Well, as we know, we're not living in apartheid. Apartheid took 30, 40 years, and it was wrong, and I admit it was wrong. Segregation on the color of our skin. But if we look what is done in 26 years by the African National Congress, then we can clearly see that there's pros and cons for all parts of basic human rights. Some people may be loudspeakers and speak very loudly. When I give public talks in South Africa or public talks around the world, I speak very loud. Now, people may miscrew that for a person who's been angry. So we've all got our own little niche in life where some people are softly spoken and some people speak loud. It doesn't mean they're angry if they speak loud. So our basic human right has to be respected. I have to, if you are blind or deaf, I must respect that human right. If you are physically disabled, I must respect that right, that you are physically disabled and that you need maybe help to cross the road. But that isn't the person's human right that someone else must come take them across the road. That is common courtesy, which is lacking in this country. The Constitution of this country, under Article 7 of the Constitution clearly says that the Constitution, is for all South Africans. Well, at the moment, the Constitution is about 5% of the elite of the African National Congress and the EFF. Because not much has changed for the black man of South Africa. The vast majority are still staying in shacks. The vast majority do not have water. The vast majority do not have toilets. And the vast majority are living under the breadline. So when power was taken in 1994, and then Human Rights Day came for what happened at Sharpeville, we forget. Sharpeville was a massacre. But a couple of weeks before Sharpeville, the police station around the area was attacked. And people don't know this. And 9 policemen were slaughtered to death, including 2 black policemen. So Sharpeville can never be seen in isolation of what happened that day when 40-odd people were killed. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we had our own Sharpeville a couple of years ago. We had the ANC Sharpeville, where the police were instructed by the president, then deputy president of this country, to use maximum force against minors. And people at Marikana were blown away. We saw it in the health center, Estomol, where 140-odd black people were annihilated. So we've got Marikana. Their basic human rights was completely violated. We don't have a day like Human Rights Day for Marikana, but we have one for Sharpeville, the reason being because it happened under the white dispensation of this country. When are they going to open up something that happened under the black dispensation? Because if they do, they are then admitting what they did was wrong. We've got the right to human dignity. All of us, every single person has got the right to human dignity and to freedom. Freedom of religion, freedom of expression. Those freedoms have suddenly been taken away from us because under Article 9 of the Constitution, Article 9 of the South African Constitution says the following: no discrimination amongst any race, any sexuality, any religious belief. But how can that be true? If we're looking at the human rights dispensation of South Africa, because it has been violated. Because if you've got black economic empowerment, how can we be equal in South Africa? If we have got people applying for jobs, white, colored, and Indian, and not getting the jobs, and the jobs are exclusively for black people, you then tell me, how is the Constitution of this country equal to all? That Article 9 of the Constitution is a fallacy. We've got the right to speak the language we want to. That's why the people in the Constitution brought in 11 languages. I think 12 with the deaf and with the deaf people. But we have a situation here in Pretoria University and Stellenbosch University, excuse me, where Afrikaans people, Afrikaans learners, A, cannot write the exams in their mother language, B, they're not allowed to speak Afrikaans on the campus, and C, they're not even allowed to go into the canteen and speak Afrikaans. So where is no discrimination according to Article 9 of the Constitution of South Africa. The Constitution of South Africa, my friends, is a wonderful document if it can be enacted, but it's not being enacted. Because then those Afrikaans pupils, because there isn't a, let's just get this straight, my friends. There's a complete attack on the white Afrikaner and the language of Afrikaans. The language of Afrikaans to black people and to this very corrupt government is saying to us quite clearly that Afrikaners were the result of what happened during apartheid. Now, we can't be combed with the same brush. The violation of Afrikaans and the Afrikaans language, and where many statues had to be taken down and were broken down and were burnt, etc., depicting anything Afrikaans, is a violation of Article 9 of the Constitution of South Africa. So no president, prime minister, leader of this country can stand up and say, we are practicing the Constitution of this country. Article 10 goes further and says our human dignity, our menswaardigheid. Are we being treated with dignity? We have seen today, there's a video going around that is happening on the Garden Route under the DA-controlled Western Cape. Not only the ANC are not doing their job, the DA are also not doing their job. Where sewage is pouring into the river that goes into the dam that is the only supply of water to the Garden Route. Is that, under Article 9 of the Constitution of South Africa, the right to dignity? Article 11 and 14 directly deals with the right to life. Do we have the right to life? If we had the right to life, we would not have burglar bars all around. We would not have electric fences. The right to life has been violated because our people have been murdered on the Cape Flats, our people have been murdered on the farms, and our people have been murdered anywhere. Riots are happening everywhere. Strikes are happening everywhere. But we have to drive through there or walk through there. The policing, I'm sorry, is disgraceful. And I know we're going to say we have great policemen, which we do. But the enforcement of the right to safety and the right to life is not, which is enshrined in the Constitution, is not being enacted on the ground. In this country, which is not in the Constitution, because I studied the Constitution with the help of Advocate Barnard. The right to protest is there, but not the right to violate, to burn, to break, to slander, to murder, to attack people in the suburbs. That's not the right to life. We've got the right to protection under the Constitution of South Africa. Are we being protected by the South African police? Are we being protected when we go to hospital? The state of our hospital is well below the basic standard of a human right of any country in the world. We don't have clean, efficient, well-run medical facilities. Bar one turn around and say, South Africa is bankrupt because of all the money they had to put into the COVID virus. Now that we know is a lie. Because the country is bankrupt because of the African National Congress putting all the money, and their pals from Eskom putting all that money into their back pockets. That's why the country is bankrupt. The country is not bankrupt because of the Chinese virus. I'll make a small point in case here. Last week or the week before, they had the Currie Cup rugby final. 30 men plus the reserves play against each other for 80 minutes. Close contact, sweating, blood, you name it. Yet, we're only allowed 50 in a church. Does that make sense? That is infringing on my constitutional right to practice my belief. It's a clear infringement. It is a no-brainer infringement, and what I've got is just a simple example. Our people that wait for maintenance. The justice system in South Africa, we've heard, I can't say it because I can't prove it, has been captured. The many women and men who have to stand in queues to get justice for maintenance, and then you get maintenance dodgers all over South Africa, that money cannot be put into the hands of the wife, ex-wife, or the ex-husband, that they can bring up their children, is a violation of a basic human right. That is a violation of the basic human right that, enacted in the Constitution of South Africa, says that must be done. We have seen a justice system where some people go to court. The court starts at 11 o'clock, they finish at 3 o'clock. Then they can't, in the High Court in Cape Town, they can't find judges. Judge Sloppy, who's under investigation for various things, still holds the reins at the Western Cape High Court, and I can't convict him or find him not guilty. But these allegations against Judge Sloppy of the High Court of Cape Town has been going on for years. And we know who his friends are. I believe that the justice system needs a complete overhaul, as well as the police. I feel the police, when we read statements that the police are 50 to 60% can't write. We saw yesterday more policemen being arrested. They can't drive. What are they doing in the police? Who appointed them? How does some policemen and women go from being a constable and 6 months later are a brigadier? That is not right. What has happened to the abuse of innocent people in South Africa? Not talking about drug dealers now. Talking about innocent people whose houses get violated and searched without a search warrant. And it's very clear in the Constitution and in criminal law when you need a search warrant and when you don't need a search warrant, and they get violated. And they don't have the money to appoint an advocate to take it further and sue the South African police. Our right as South Africans, if this day, yesterday, is that we are celebrating a Human Rights Day, we are celebrating the failure of human rights. Human rights does not exist in the country of South Africa. The enactment of human rights does not exist. Because if it did, people would have the right to safety, they'd have the right to protection, they'd have the right to hospital care, they'd have the right to good roads, they'd have the rights where our school kids go to school. That's not human rights. Human rights, when we look at the Geneva Convention, of what they talk about at the Geneva Convention on Human Rights in 1950 or 60, it's not what's happening in South Africa. If a human right is to steal billions, then I don't know. So that is the human rights happening at the moment. It's the human takeaway. Eskom is broken because of black people, nothing else. Eskom is broken, don't think I'm racist now because I'm giving you a fact. Eskom is broken because of black people who thought, A, their presidents, and B, their general managers, etc., and CEOs, like I know there's a white one there now, but he's only been there a couple of months, is that they didn't have to take care of the neglect to the Eskom power stations. They thought, these black people thought, that things just go on forever. That they don't have any way, that they need to replace things, they need to repair things, and they need to keep things up to scratch. No. So Eskom became the fodder with the Guptas, with Zuma, of 200 rand notes. That is what has happened to Eskom. That is what has happened to SAA. Black people ran SAA, they ran it to the ground. Now that can't say to me, Anthony, hey, you're making racist comments, because I'm not. Who was in power? who was running it. If it was a white man in power, if I was president of this country and Transnet and SAA and Eskom and the NEL had all run to the ground, you'd blame me as a white person. I'm blaming them as black people. They did not take the advice of people who knew what they were doing, but because of black economic empowerment, they brought in people that said they can do plumbing, but meantime they've been doing nothing their whole lives. The justice system that is so broken doesn't allow us to see that we can have, the justice system doesn't allow us to see that justice is seen to be done. There is violations in this nation where if we look back and say, okay, well, 26 years ago, the African National Congress offered the people of South Africa houses, sewage, water. But about 5% of the black people, 5% of the black people have found hope. What about the other 95 still in their shacks that are rioting every day? What about the people in the Western Cape, on the Cape Flats, that have been promised houses by the Democratic Alliance for years? What about the people who have been promised protection on the Cape Flats of Cape Town by the Democratic Alliance for years? And the Democratic Alliance will turn around and say, public national policing falls under national. Yes, we know that. But then why do you have a metro police? Don't promise what you've promised to the Cape Flats and what happened in Ocean View. I took a drive there today. Don't promise what you have promised and then not deliver to the people of South Africa and come 3 months before an election and say, okay, well, all's forgiven, give us another chance. The housing, our hospitals and our health under Article 27 of the Constitution. Most municipalities in South Africa, my friends, do not have sufficient clean running water for the people of South Africa. The most basic human right of all is the human right of water. My belief, this is my personal belief, is that the next war in this world will be over water, not oil. The duplicate and triplicate salaries of a friend of mine who was in the Justice Department, still is, very well known to me. The ghost salaries that are happening in South Africa is stripping away where we could put that money into roads. We can put that money into the NEL. We can put that money into Eskom. We can fix this country again. But for someone to tell me yesterday to go and have a great human rights day and everything is hunky-dory, I don't know what they've been using. Our right to education. We have a very weak education system. We do not have the same standards that we had in the days before Nelson Mandela walked out of prison. Our teachers are harassed. Our teachers are sometimes incompetent. History is being taught of the history that they want to teach. And sadly, when people stand up and say this is what should be happening in history, you're run down as a racist. We've seen that on Wednesday, the Economic Freedom Fighters, the EFF, under Julius Malema, has called for a mass mobilization of the ground troops at Dani Milan School in Pretoria. My friends, we saw this happen at Brackenfell. We saw this event happen at Brackenfell. Is there no coincidence, I ask you, my South African brothers and sisters, that on the very same day that the EFF will now get the headlines and cause chaos at Dani Milan School, the Constitutional Court of South Africa will decide whether Jacob Zuma goes to jail or not? Is it coincidence? Or is it coincidence that Jacob Zuma entertained Julius Malema for a cup of tea the other day? Is there any coincidence, South Africa? So once again, our children of Dani Milan School after they have victimized the school of Brackenfell, the Dani Milan school will be victimized. Youngsters will be terrorized. Is that human rights? And the government will do nothing to stop it. The government will do nothing to stop it. And that is the problem that we live with in this country. As soon as there's an event, as soon as there's an event in South Africa, the EFF, which is the armed wing of the ANC, say what you like. You remember they say in the ANC, once the ANC, always the ANC. We've seen people come out today and I applaud them for saying that they stand against Zuma and against the corruption. When people go to bed hungry, there's no human rights. When people go to bed with no clean water, there's no human rights. When people don't have the right to proper education, there's no human rights. When people don't have the right to go to a hospital, there's no human rights. When people have to fear to get in their cars and travel, there's no human rights. When people have to get a job based on the color of their skin, that's not human rights. That is actually racism. That is racism of the highest degree. When people are stopped from earning a living due to the color of their skin. Article 30 of the culture and language. We need to respect each other's cultures in South Africa. But we don't need to bow down to anyone's cultures. I believe the gross millions and millions of rand spent to plant the king, with thousands of people there with no social distancing and no masks, was nothing short of a show to the white people and to the colored people and to the Indian people that we will do exactly what we like. There is one law for black people and there's one law for the rest of the people. And I'm not talking about law-abiding black people. A very disturbing thing has come to my attention, that all state departments, and this is where I think the rule of law has been compromised. We have got some brilliant advocates in South Africa. Advocate Barnard, who's my vice president, he's a brilliant advocate. There's Jeremy Gauntlet. There's some really top advocates in South Africa. That all the state departments that get sued, go to court, challenge this, challenge that, can no longer, a letter has come out, can no longer brief any white advocates. Now, is that basic rights? Is that the basic rights? Is that the violation of the basic rights of learned advocates and lawyers, that they cannot anymore get any work as far as the state is concerned?
Yeah.
My friends, human rights has been abused in the extreme in South Africa. We're meant to have freedom of choice. We are meant to have freedom of association. We don't have it. We don't have it in South Africa. We are sitting on the tipping point of one of the greatest violations known to mankind. The crimes against humanity committed by the African National Congress will see them, if we have our way and we do our homework, at the International Court of The Hague. They have demoralized a once proud nation. They have made sure that racism and the race card becomes the only card in the pack of cards. They have played the race card in every way when they were wrong. They have tried to violate white, colored and Indian South Africans. They have tried their very best to break us when it comes to farm murders, when it comes to strikes, when it comes to optochten at schools. We have been treated as a non-entity in our nation of our birth. South Africa, die wit man op die oomblik, en ek sal so sê, ver gaan te sê, die kleurlingman en die Indië man en vrou. Ons het geen meer regte nie. Ons is so skape, wat gelei word deur 'n regering, wat dink ons is die padda in die pot. Hulle het niks, en ek sê dit weer, hulle het niks om vir ons te offer nie. Hulle wil sien dat ons uitgeroei word, dat ons uitvermoor word, dat ons aan honger ly, dat ons mense in plakkerskamp, dat ons wit mense in plakkerskamp bly. Daar is nie meer 'n verenigde land van die Republiek van Suid-Afrika nie. Suid-Afrika is besig met sy ekonomie, wat tans Suid-Afrika, wat kan sê, Suid-Afrika is bankrot. Ons hospitale is bankrot. Ons weermag is bankrot. Ons vloot, ek het gisteraand daar gepraat, ons vloot is bankrot. Ons polisie het polisiemanne wat nie weet wat hulle doen nie, behalwe die goeie eenes, die mense van die ou skool. Want as jy kan nie skryf, of jy kan nie kar ry nie, wat soek jy in die polisie? Maar die wit man sal teruggehou word, totdat iets gebeur in die land. Vir basiese menseregte. Suid-Afrika, ons het 'n keuse. Ons kan die aanvaar. Ons kan sê, dis alright, ons gaan nou aan, ons het ons 30 jaar van apartheid gehad, kom ons gee hulle nog 50 jaar. Want in 26 jaar, as hulle soveel, die swart man van Suid-Afrika, as hulle soveel kon afbreek in 26 jaar, wat sal hulle doen in 40 jaar? Wat sal hulle doen in nog 14 jaar van 'n land wat nie geld het nie, en 'n land waar mense sukkel om brood op die tafel te sit, waar geen ekonomie inkom nie. En dan sal hulle omkom en sê, dit is die rede vir die is die Chinese virus. COVID has been a great excuse for the greatest theft in South African history. COVID has been the greatest excuse for the greatest theft in African history. COVID-19 has been the greatest excuse by the South African puppet government, as we've seen in the Zondo Commission, in world history. We have never seen in our lives so much being stolen by so few to benefit a handful. Our country stands on the corner, and we know we have to make one of the most radical decisions of our lives, South Africa. Is dit tyd nou dat ons as mekaar opstaan vir mekaar, met mekaar, en soos ek gisteraand gesê, ek is baie tevrede en alles, en nie tevrede is nie die regte woord nie, maar ek is baie beïndruk deur die Suidlanders. Suid-Afrika, ons het 'n keuse. En ek vra vir hierdie keuse vanaand, wat ons gesien het, ons het nie basiese regte in die land nie. Die wit man is 'n verraaier in die land, volgens die swart ANC. Ons moet almal van nou af begin saam staan, nie mekaar afbreek nie, wat ons sien so baie van, dat die wit mense, mense soos ek, wat hulle my so afbreek, dit kom nooit van 'n kleerling of 'n Indiër of 'n swarte af nie. Dit kom van wit mense af. Wat wil wit mense verder breek? in 'n land wat klaargebreek is. Ek nooi almal uit om saam met ons te kom werk. Want die ander opsie, wat jy kan nie agter 'n komputer of 'n selfoon doen nie, en nonsens praat van mense wat wil goed doen, is om oorlog toe te gaan. En nie baie wat speel agter 'n komputer of 'n selfoon weet wat oorlog is. Suid-Afrika, die tyd het nou aangebreek, waar ons gaan staan vir waarvoor ons glo. Ek was 'n trotse polisieman. Ek was 'n trotse speurder in die moord- en roofeenheid in die Suid-Afrikaanse Narkotika Bureau. Maar die land, en ek vra mooi Suid-Afrika vanaand, maar ons sal baklei, ons sal veg. Wat nie saam is met ons is teen ons. En ek wil net Suid-Afrika waarsku. Daar's verraaiers in ons midde. Daar's verraaiers wat weer die wit man sal sien val. Wees op die uitkyk. Wees op die uitkyk vir mense wat te naby jou kom en te veel vrae vra om die Afrikaner, die Engelsman, die Portugies, die Griek, die Jood, almal, die kleerlinge en die Indiër, dat hulle ons wil afbreek. Suid-Afrika, ons het nog een groot ding. Ons het die almagtige God. Ek is geroep in die posisie in, anders sou ek dit nie doen nie. Want die aanslag op my lewe en die aanslag op my persoonlikheid en die aanslag op my familie raak benoud nou en dan. Maar dan dink ek terug en ek dink, wat sal my pa gedoen het in dieselfde situasie? Ek doen wat my pa sou gedoen het. Ek sal nooit opgee. Ek sal nooit opgee. Nooit in my hele lewe. Om vir my vriende te sê en familie te sê dat ek vir die land sal veg. Ek sal seker maak dat my dogter en my vrou veilig is. Maar ek sal veg vir my land. Hierdie land is deur swart mense geruïneer. Hierdie land is deur swart mense afgebreek, geroof. En dit is tyd dat dit gesê word soos dit is. Want dit is nie wit mense in die regering van die ANC wat steel nie. Dit is swart mense. So hulle moet nie vir ons kom sê, ons weet nie wat ons doen nie. En 'n ander ding, die stem van Suid-Afrika is nie 'n rasist liedjie nie. Dit is 'n stem, as jy mooi luister, dat ons weer hierdie land, en ek wil nie teruggaan na apartheid toe nie, maar weer hierdie land bou, en ons sal dit bou. Ons sal dit bou. My friends, I will see you at 8:30 for our normal chat. Suid-Afrika, het God eerste, Suid-Afrika eerste, ons manne, ons vrouens eerste, ons sal nooit opgee nie. En die swart mense moet nou begin dink, werk saam met ons. Anders dan.
Van ons land Suid-Afrika, ons sal antwoord op jou roepstem, ons sal offer wat jy vra, ons sal ons vir jou Suid-Afrika.
Goeienaand almal. Is lekker om hier te sit en te luister aan meneer Hol waar hy oor gepraat het. In my oë in sien ek 'n man wat opstaan vir ons mense daar buite, vir ons nasie. En it's an honor to be in Mr. Hol's presence to see that. I sit and I listen. I'm getting you guys support as well on WhatsApp. Thank you very much for the IDs coming through. But what Mr. Hall spoke about this evening, I learned a lot. And I just want to pray for our land. Ek wil bid vir ons mense. Ek wil bid vir ons mense daar buite wat stikken is, wat beroof is, wat nie weet watter kant om te gaan nie, wat nie weet wie om te vertrou nie. Who do we trust these days? Who do we turn to? Hey, I want to pray for healing upon our land. Dat ons maar net stil bly voor die Here asseblief en voor kan hom. Almagtige God en Hemelse Vader, Here, baie dankie vir hierdie dag wat U vir ons geseën het. Baie dankie dat U vir ons nog 'n kans gegee het om ons oë oop te maak vir môre, Here. Baie dankie dat ons mense saam met ons het wat soos meneer Hol is, wat ons mekaar kan ondersteun in hierdie tyd en wat so swaar gaan in ons land en Here. Here, ons vra dat U naby na ons toe sal kom, Here. Ons markeer U nou in hierdie tyd en dinge swaar, Here. Daar's mense daar buite wat nie weet watter kant om te gaan nie, Here. Wit, swart, kleurling, Indian mense, dit maak nie saak watter kleur nie meer nie, Here. Ons weet nie meer wie om te vertrou nie vir Here. Ek vra dat U ons aan sal raak vanaand, Here, dat ons vertrou in U sal sit vanaand, Here. Dat U vir ons sal deurdra deur hierdie tyd, Here. Dat U hierdie land sal bymekaar sal bring om op te staan teen vir die mense wat vir ons afbring, Here. Ek bid dat U hulle oë sal oopmaak om te sien wat doen hulle aan ons mense, Here. My hart gaan so uit na hulle toe, Here. Vir my is dit 'n voorreg vanaand om hier in hierdie stoel te sit, Here, om te bid vir die mense, Here. Baie dankie dat U vir my hierdie geleentheid gegee het, Here. En dat ek so naby aan U kan bly om te bid vir hulle, om te bid vir my land, Here. Want ek sien wat daar buite aangaan, Here. Ek sien hoe word my mense neergedruk, Here. Ek sien wat aangaan daar buite, Here. Dit maak my hart seer, Here. Ek bid vir hulle, Here. Ek bid vir my mense wat seer kry, Here. Ek bid vir die persoon wat vanaand is, wat verlore is, Here. Wat nie U ken nie, Here. Wat net ons land wil afbreek, Here. Baie dankie vir meneer Hol se lewe vir wat hy doen vanaand, Here. Dat hy die hoop terugbring na ons toe, Here. Dat U vir hom verbruik vanaand, Here. Ek bid dat U nog altyd vir hom die krag sal gee en die genade sal gee oor sy lewe om hom deur te dra deur hierdie tyd, Here. Dit maak nie saak wat mense sê nie. Dit maak nie saak wie wil hom afbring, Here. Baie dankie dat U vir ons die krag gee om by te staan by hom, Here. Want ons weet wat hy doen is U se wil, Here. En niemand gaan teen hy staan nie, Here. Ek bid dit alles in Jesus se naam, Here. Ek bid dat U vir elkeen wat hier luister, wat hier naby is, wat 'n oor uitgee, Here, wat bang is om U te aanvaar om hulle lewe in, Here. Ek bid dat hy kettinge afgebreek sal word in Jesus se naam, Here. Dat U se bloed oor ons land sal val, Here. En vir almal red, Here. Vir almal red wat nie weet watter kant toe nie, Here. Wat vir hulle op sal lig in hierdie tyd in, Here. En maar net weet dat is alles in U se naam en wat als gebeur vanaand, Here. Dat 'n dak oor ons kop is vanaand is, Here. Dat ons 'n voorreg het om 'n bord te eet, 'n bord kos te eet, Here. En dat ons 'n man soos meneer Hol het wat opstaan vir ons mense, wat 'n stem het, Here. Baie dankie vir die stem wat vanaand gespeel is, Here. Want ek het aan dit geluister aan die woorde wat daarin is, Here. Om te sien dat Suid-Afrika weer op sal staan. En weer soos een sal staan, maak nie saak wat 'n kleur jy is en waar vanaand af jy kom, Here. Dat ons alles vertrou in U sal sit vanaand, Here, om vorentoe te gaan. En ek bid dit alles in Jesus se naam. Amen. Baie dankie mense. Lekker aan vir julle verder. Lief vir almal.